Good day. This is Andrew Rashid. I'm with Alliance Solutions Group, and today we're going to be talking about Sage 100 Contractor. It's a fully integrated construction accounting, project management, and estimating software system, and it's developed by Sage Software. Before we get into the software, let's just take a few minutes and kind of bring you up to speed with who we are and kind of what we do, and then we'll go right into the software overview. So our firm, Alliance Solutions Group, is a consulting firm that's focused entirely on the construction and real estate market. We work with a number of different applications that is basically considered to be proven technology in the market. And we pride ourselves on being a local provider of technology. So therefore, we cover Texas, California, Florida, and Puerto Rico. And we have offices throughout our territory. In terms of our client base, we currently have an active customer base of just over 5,000 clients. And one of the nice things is about our firm is everyone you speak to in our group typically will have real-world construction industry experience. So again, all of our efforts are focused on the space, the solutions we provide, and the people we bring on board all come with a specific focus on construction. Just a couple of things about Sage Software. They are a publicly traded company. They have a large footprint of construction and real estate clients throughout the country. And I think one of the really nice things about their solutions is they're always recognized by things like CPA Technology, CFMA, which is the Construction Financial Management Association, and the Construction Executive, which is an offshoot of the AGC, as a leading provider of integrated software. And what we're going to be talking about today is specific things that Donnie Lambert had asked me to go over as it relates to some of the needs from an insurance perspective. But when you do look at a solution like this, it is good to know that it is a fully integrated system that covers the whole life cycle of a project. Everything from acquiring your customer to driving that information over to managing the completion of that project and driving that data into facilitating accounting activities, which of course provides us the opportunity for better analysis. And at the end of the day, that helps us acquire our customers in a more intelligent fashion. So the software does give you the capability to handle the whole life cycle of a project in a single solution. So with that being said, let's go into the product. Now this is Sage 100, and when you do look at it, like I mentioned, it's a fully integrated system. So although we are going to be focusing on just a few minor items in here, it is got a lot of depth to it. But the nice thing about that is even though there is a lot of feature functionality in here for the contractor, we have had it built so that it is also easy to use. And that makes it great for people who are on tools like Peachtree or QuickBooks. It gives them a really nice platform to migrate up into so we can give them the tools they need to run their business, yet it's still easy to use. So let's talk a little bit about ease of use for a minute. First off, there's a couple of different ways to navigate through the product. First off, you can use these menu options. And they're done in a very intuitive fashion, so I can just expand the area that I want to look into and just find the area that I want to work in or pull a report on. And then just double-click that particular option. It will open up that particular screen. For those of you who are a little bit more into process maps, QuickBooks became famous with the use of process maps, and what we can do here is just, if we would like, hide that menu and then focus on navigating through the product by using these process maps and just simply double-clicking on the area of the product that we want to drill into and go about our business that way. So either way, it does not matter, and so that's one nice thing. The other thing is integration. Now, I know pulling reports and doing audits and finding the data is very important. And integration is a big key of that. One of the unique things that Sage 100 has done through its years of development is really tighten down the integration of how all of the data entry screens work together. So of course, when you look at tools such as QuickBooks, it's nice to know that you can drill down into a report. And a lot of our competitors can allow you to drill into a sub-report. But when we think of true integration, the fact that we can do something like pulling up a construction-specific report, such as this work in process schedule, and while I'm looking at that, be able to go ahead and drill into this data, and not just drill into it from a sub-account perspective, or I mean a sub-report, but actually drill into the transaction itself. And if there was supporting information, such as I'm in the AP invoice window, so I started off at the work in process schedule, and through my own curiosity drilled all the way into the actual record that was entered for accounts payable. And if we took advantage of some of the really good features in this software, I could actually call up a copy of that digital invoice. So you can go ahead and scan copies of supporting documentation to this specific record. And if I'm looking at a high-level report, drill in from the report all the way into the transaction and call up that supporting documentation on demand. That's what we mean by integration. Very few systems can do that. And of course, close out and go right back to where I started and continue to interact with this information in other ways. There are also times where we need to drive this data into Excel. Maybe I need to take a copy of this report to, say, a surety agent or someone like that. I can go ahead and drop that report right into a spreadsheet with a click of the mouse. And so, the capability to export data into Excel and keep it formatted to the original format of the report, and even bring in with it the formulas. When we talk about ease of use and integration, those are a couple of examples that we're referring to. In addition to that, we're going to be talking a little bit more about reporting here in a little bit. We'll have a few other features on that. So let's talk a little bit about the audit trail, because I know, an audit trail is important. Anything that touches accounting will end up here in the journal transactions. And what's really great to know is that anything that touches the journal cannot be deleted. So you can't delete accounting transactions. Not only that, you have a complete audit trail with the source and the user and the date, period, all those critical components tied into this. And furthermore, if I was looking at the journal and I actually wanted to see the source of this transaction, in other words, this was an AP invoice that was entered, that's what posted here to the journal, I could drill into that record right from here. So again, just kind of highlighting the integration. So auditing even becomes a little bit easier to do with the interaction of the reports and the interaction of the journals. So it makes that very nice from an ease of use and an audit perspective. Let's talk a little bit about the architecture, because when you do things like pull reports and pull information out of here, you got to have the right architecture in place so that the data populates in a useful manner. So the way our hierarchy works in terms of job cost is we start with a job. And a job can be organized into phases. And then those jobs and those phases can be tied to a budget. And the budget is where costs will be allocated against. And that budget is organized by cost code and subtotaled by division. This is totally user definable per your customer. So if you've got a company that's a GC, they may not have all this detail here. Likewise, if you had a trade contractor, they may have this level of detail. It's entirely up to the customer what level of detail they have and their budget. Now, it's organizing your costs in this manner that is going to allow you to produce reports that look like this. So say, for example, I wanted to get a job cost journal. So I actually wanted to see a list of all the costs on a particular job organized by cost code. Now, one thing you'll notice is when I come into a report window, I've got multiple variations of the report. In addition to that, I can filter what I see on the report. And based on the report, your filtering criteria will be varied based on what's on the actual report. So say, for example, I wanted to look at my spend on what I spent with a particular vendor across all jobs. I can leave the job blank, pick the vendor, and it will just go out there and grab that by job and by cost code. Or maybe perhaps I wanted to see what I spent on a particular scope of work, such as Windows. There I could just pull the same report by cost code and then just basically do a lookup and pick the specific cost code that's relevant to my search. And when I do this, it will drive that information up onto the screen for me. And here's my job, here's the cost code, and here are the transactions. So here I'm seeing some time that we logged in against an employee against demolition. And that's the fully burdened job cost. So in case you're curious, what I mean by fully burdened, I mean with workers' comp, all the benefits, and the wage. So, you know, it's accurate job costing being provided on the report. When I look at something like a vendor invoice, here I've got the invoice number, the date that it was recorded, the description on the invoice, the vendor who performed the work, and the costs associated it. So again, I could drill into this and go all the way to the source. Now what's interesting about this is, although I drilled into the AP invoice transaction itself, and again, if I had any supporting documentation here, I could have that tied into that. So it could be a picture, it could be back charges, it doesn't really matter. Anything tied to this AP invoice in terms of to support our efforts, it could be tied to that. Scanned, drag and dropped, and linked to this transaction. But what's interesting in terms of integration is this. Say while I'm here, I wanted to further investigate Jansen Drywall's subcontract because this invoice was in fact against an actual contract. I don't have to leave my research to go do that. I can drill into that contract with one mouse click. Now I'm looking at their subcontract. There's their schedule of values. Again, if they had signed a contract and I had scanned a copy of that and attached it, it would be available to me right here. Also, I can get a list of all the change orders that may have been applicable to this subcontractor. In fact, in this example here, I can actually see that they have a back charge against them. And so if I wanted to further investigate that, again, I could drill into that back charge and see quickly that they made some damage and that we self-performed the corrective work and increased our budget accordingly to do it. Close out, go right back to where I started, and even begin looking at other data. So that's kind of what I mean when you talk about the architecture and the reporting, being able to filter your reports. We also have the capability to do things called KPIs, key performance indicators. We use a dashboard. Now, what's great about these dashboards is these dashboards can be tailored per the user. So you can see I've got some particular things that I want to keep an eye on my business. But I can also pick other templates based on the topic that I'm interested in and choose to have those present on my particular dashboard. So this brings us back to security. You know, the fact that it is a fully integrated system, we now are able to interact with data that probably previously we have not been able to interact with. The big question from the client begins to be, how do I control who can do what in my system? And that ties back to security. So basically, we come in and we create groups of users. And these groups of users have been given rights of things that they may or may not be able to do. And then from there, we assign these groups to access, right? So first I say what these groups of users can do or cannot do. Then I assign users to those groups. And then I begin assigning access. And so the access is actually very granular. In other words, not only could I say, for example, whether or not you could access the job list, the list of all my jobs, but once in there, as long as it's not a required field, I could actually say whether or not you have access to a specific field. So the security is very secure, very granular. But the other thing, coming back to an accountability perspective, that it can do for you is it's going to provide that audit trail. If you think back to what I said at the very beginning of this, when we go to look at our journal transactions, we are user stamping every transaction. So not only are we securing the database and who can do what, but we're also identifying who's making the transactions. Last thing, I know there's been some interest around confirming how a job was handled, whether it's the spend on the job or the contractor on the job. Let's talk a little bit about how we manage our contractors on the jobs. Well, we do that through a couple of different purchasing instruments. It's either through a PO or a subcontract. Both of these are called committed costs. And so when we look at, say, for example, a subcontractor, a couple of things happen here. First of all, we assign them to a job. That will give us a specific list of the subcontractors who performed work on a given job. And you can see how quickly I can access that list just by simply navigating to my job screen, which could be through a drill down or a lookup. And then I can go ahead and get a list of all the active subcontractors that are performing work on a given job. So our subcontracts and POs are tied to a specific job. When we look at vendor compliance, because that's also important, we're going to also proactively manage whether or not these vendors have current certificates of insurance. So when we look at this, now we can quickly identify what certificates of insurance or licenses or whatever that might be that we need to track on this vendor, what they are, when we received them, and when they expire, and do we want a warning, and in fact, do we want to have a stop pay? Now, these things tie into workflow. So what I mean by that is, when I go and try and cut a new subcontract for Cyanide Stucco, the company we just talked about, this is what I'm referring to. We get a warning that, hey, you know what? These guys don't have a current contractor's license. And so before I issue them a subcontract, I need to have that rectified. The other places where it's going to notify you of that warning is in accounts payable, both when you enter their invoices and when you go to pay them. So we're proactively through the workflow monitoring that information and providing you opportunities to act upon it. In addition to that, other ways that we truly manage your subcontract is not only do we create that schedule of values, but we have the capability to do things like put a hold pay. They're not performing. Or, like I've been mentioning numerous times, in all of our transactions, whether it's a journal transaction, AP record, accounts receivable record, a change order, it does not matter. You're going to see this paperclip up here. And this gives us the opportunity to do any type of attachment. I don't care if it's a picture or if it's an Outlook email or a PDF. It doesn't matter. Any supporting documentation that's going to help us validate why we did something with this record is available to us. So here, like a signed contract. In terms of efficiency gain for our contractors, we do that by tying all this together and being able to provide them things like, hey, how about a contract summary? I want to know where I'm at to date on this subcontract. Being able to have the cost controls in place to where I know what my percent of completion is with this sub. Not only know what approved change orders are on this subcontractor, but my open ones. So at any rate, we're able to go ahead and truly manage our vendors just the way I think you would hope us to be able to do. We've got all the reporting that you would like to have on there, from very detailed or very high level, and hopefully this will give you kind of a high level overview of some of the really nice features we have. My phone number here is 888-559-9540. Again, my name is Andrew Rashid. I would really encourage you to reach out to me. I'm at extension 2001. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have and really provide you even more information if you'd like it. Again, that number is 888-559-9540. And thank you to Donnie Lambert over at Collinsworth, Alter, and Lambert for putting this together for us. We really greatly appreciate their partnership and look forward to working with our mutual clients more in the future. Thank you.